Hi, it's Sean, and you're listening to The 3-Month Vacation. With 90 films to his credit, you could easily call Tom Hanks a household name. Since 1970, actor Tom Hanks has been turning out film after film, many of which have turned out to be blockbusters, huge blockbusters. He's one of the only actors to win 2 consecutive Oscars. So what's on Tom Hanks's to-do list when a new movie is promoted? Quite a lot, it seems. On average, he might have to be part of 15 to 20 daily interviews. On top of that, he'd have to attend talk shows in several countries. Then there is the issue of going to premieres, film festivals, red carpets. There are also multiple fan events. He might be exceedingly well known, but all of his popularity doesn't necessarily sell a film. Instead, he has to get out on the road to ensure that things happen. And Tom Hanks is not alone. A presidential race involves about 100 to 250 events. Depending on the length of the campaign, a presidential candidate will have to attend rallies and town halls, be a part of fundraisers, debates, interviews, and meet community groups. Despite being on every news channel and endless blogs, videos, and podcasts, they still have to show up in person. They might have a budget as enormous as $300 to $400 million, and it still does not give them enough of an excuse to sit back, relax, and do nothing. Yet the average business owner does quite the opposite. The business owner will often buy into the idea that they only need to be on social media. They only need to write some blog posts. Somehow, that business owner will come to the conclusion that they are doing enough to promote the business. Unsurprisingly, businesses struggle quite a bit, especially when things get rough. The reality is that until you get out there, until you start meeting with clients, you face enormous disadvantages. It doesn't matter whether you sell a product or a service. If you don't go out and you don't meet with prospects, you don't meet with clients, you lose out on 3 specific fronts. The first and the most evident is the connection with your client or prospect. It doesn't matter how many Zoom calls you've been on or where you appear on social media. There is nothing quite like meeting somebody face to face. Once you meet with a client, a connection is formed that is far superior to anything you can achieve online. This is why salespeople will cross a continent just to meet with their clients when they can achieve something that is seemingly similar on a Zoom call. The second reason it's crucial to get out is the possibility of getting feedback. When you're sitting in front of a prospect or client, they tell you what's wrong with your message. They often tell you what's wrong with your product or your service. And it's not always comfortable, but the feedback becomes crucial on the product or service front because you need to get across your signature story. You need to tell that story of that product, of that service. And unless you get feedback, you don't know how to relate that story. Your product, your service becomes like one out of a million zillion other products and services that seem to be very similar. And it's only when you get out there and you have to deal with this feedback, you have to deal with people not understanding what you're saying, clarifying it, tweaking it a little bit. That's when you can tweak that signature story. When you tell your client about your product or your service, you'll see how they react. But you also see the usage of that product or service in real time. Getting this ongoing feedback is crucial, and it's powerful, especially when given in person. And this is why we start going out. You can write articles, you can get on social media, and you're not going to get this level of feedback. There's also a third reason why you need to get out, and that is the level of discomfort. The moment you are at home, you're comfortable. In the moment you get out there, everything changes. Getting used to this level of discomfort means that you whittle away at it. You remove little bits of that discomfort over time. And you get very, very familiar with how to deal with a client, how to deal with objections, what are they saying, how they're saying it. That discomfort level is extreme when you're starting out with anything. Meeting with clients, meeting with groups, it will make you uncomfortable. Slowly but surely, you'll find that you have enthusiasm for the way in which you speak, in which you present, and that discomfort, it seems to go away or at least reduce quite a bit. What we're saying here is to achieve momentum, you need to move out a lot more than you would expect. However, the internet has made a lot of people extremely dependent on social media. It seems plausible to just put out some content and hope that the client will show up. And they do. There are tens of thousands of podcasts. There are articles. There are videos on YouTube. And these attract clients on a daily basis. Not all of them, but at least some of them. So it does work. However, all of that content, all of those articles and videos and podcasts and whatever you're putting out there is only part of your strategy. Getting out of your comfort zone, meeting with the clients, that becomes crucial. There's also good news. And you don't have to do this forever. You might have to go around that block several times if you're a politician, a movie star, or an author. However, a smaller business doesn't need to have a punishing schedule when dealing with clients. Take, for instance, our business at Psychotactics. In the years between 2004 and 2011, we made multiple trips both within New Zealand, Australia, the US, Canada, and Europe. I once flew to Pittsburgh. Now, a flight from Auckland takes 12 hours to get to the West Coast, that's California, and then you have to take another flight to get somewhere near Pittsburgh, then get on a real tiny plane with 12 people, quite scary, and then eventually you land in Pittsburgh. And what's waiting for me in Pittsburgh? It's not like there are 250 people waiting there. I got there, I went to this event, and there were 15 people. Who were those 15 people? They were just people who had come for their local networking meeting, just like anywhere in New Zealand or anywhere, wherever you live. Just 15 local people. And that's it. You go halfway across the world to meet 15 people. But we also made trips within New Zealand, where sometimes just 3 people would show up. Probably the most trying event was a trip to Melbourne, Australia, where just 1 person showed up. These slightly depressing events are balanced out because we have more successful ones. Sitting at home, that would have been easier, that would have been cheaper, and yet it's crucial that we go out. In the last decade or so, for us at least, at Psychotactics, the running around has not been as critical. Once we had enough clients, we found that we could avoid much of the traveling locally and also internationally. Even so, we will have at least 1 or 2 workshops or meetups every year. When you think about staying home, remember that presidential candidates, movie stars, and authors, they go out for a reason. They leave their home, their offices, because there is a very important reason. When you meet with people, things start to happen. Good things, bad things, but things happen. And remember this line every time you think of staying at home. A ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. Go out, meet real people. That brings us to the end of this podcast. So what's the one thing that you can do today? The one thing that you can do today is look out for groups. There are loads of groups in your city, especially if you live in a mid-sized place. You will find that you can either meet with them or you can speak to them. And while speaking might be terrifying, meeting is less so. Which isn't to say that you shouldn't be creating content with your articles and videos and audio. once you meet with those people, they'll still want ratification. They'll still want to get to your website. They'll still want to see your work. They'll still want to read about you. So that content strategy is not pointless, but it can't be the only thing. Getting out there becomes the most crucial thing. So find a group and go out there. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. Let's find out what's happening in psychotactics land. I don't know if you heard about it, but there's this book called Suddenly Talented. And it shows you why people struggle, especially when they're trying to acquire some new skill. If you'd like to learn more about it, go to psychotactics.com/talent. And I think you will be surprised. That's psychotactics.com/talent. I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye. Still listening? My wife Renuka used to work for a fragrance company. What she had to do was to sell these fragrances to multinationals like Lever. And pretty much on the first day that she joined the company, her boss said, "You need to go to Lever every single day." What would be the point of going to Lever every single day? At first it seemed like overkill. But soon enough she was entering the premises, and the guard knew who she was, so she didn't have to show her security badge. But she would meet with the client, and then they would have some tea probably, have a little chat, and then she'd go back to the office and get to work. Next day, same thing. As she went about this, the client got to know her, and those boundaries between client and supplier, they start to erode. They don't exist anymore, because you're seeing someone on a regular basis. After a while, the client would tell her way in advance what they needed, what was working, what was not working. It was always a shock to the competition that they were losing out. But they couldn't see something as simple as what Renuka was doing, which was she was showing up, she was leaving her office, getting to the client every day, getting feedback and understanding what their plans were in the future. That's why she became a superstar in her own company. We live in a world today which is all about content strategy and blah, blah, blah. But this concept of meeting with clients, meeting with groups, getting the feedback, doing all of this stuff, it has always existed. So be like Renuka. Go out there. Meet with people. I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye, and see you in 5000 BC.